You know, it's been a while since I reviewed something with layers. But if I were to review another Shrek game, I couldn't do it alone. I'd have to bring someone along to suffer with me. Hello?
Hey dude, what's up? Do you wanna play Smash?
Nah, how about some Shrek 2?
Look, maybe I'll talk to you later.
Come on, man. You love Shrek. You did an entire Shrektober month.
That was one time, man.
Oh, come on. Do it for the fans.
Fine, okay?
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm James.
And I'm the Golden Bolt.
And today on Stuff We Play, we're going to be looking at Shrek 2 for the Game Boy Advance. Shrek 2, sequel to the extremely popular movie about a green ogre voiced by Mike Myers, it's often considered better than the original Shrek film. Upon its release, Shrek was once again everywhere, from toys to breakfast cereals, not memes though, those didn't come till about 2012 or so.
More importantly for our purposes though, there was a game. As a sort of unwritten rule, any widely marketed kids film released until about 2013 or so had to have a video game adaptation.
And that's what brings us here today. Released 2 years after the first Shrek game for the Game Boy Advance, Shrek 2 seeks to adapt the story of, well, Shrek 2.
Unlike last time, this game was developed by Vicarious Visions and published by Activision. Oh boy.
For the purposes of this review, we're going to be playing a combination cartridge of Shrek 2 that also contains Madagascar, the video game. We won't be looking at that game today, though. Oh, don't worry. Your time will come.
Can we just kinda get this over with?
So in this masterpiece of storytelling, Shrek, Fiona, and Donkey must venture to land a far, far away to win the approval of Shrek's in-laws. Because Shrek and Fiona are married. That's kind of how it works, I guess.
That's pretty much it for the story. It's Shrek 2. If you've seen the film, you've seen the cutscenes from the game. Literally, the cutscenes are just screen grabs from the movie. The writing itself here is pretty bare bones though.
Once upon a time, there was an ogre named Shrek who found and married his true love.
Now you must go and meet the parents and kill everything in your way.
As soon as you get past the first batch of cutscenes, you choose a storybook world and are thrust into it as Shrek. Upon first starting the game, I must say it looks quite different than the last Shrek game I played.
Well, to be honest, that's kind of expected. It is a different developer and a different publisher. But it does look a lot better. Instead of the weird chibi-like art style that Hassel at the Castle had, Shrek 2 goes for a more Donkey Kong Country type of art style, and to be honest, it fits it.
The levels are very bright and colorful, yet also cartoony. And the look of the characters and enemies surprisingly don't clash much with them. If anything, they pop out really well against the nice backgrounds.
It's just a shame that they all look pretty pixely. I know this type of art style is always going to come with some pixelation, but it does look a bit rough in some spots here.
We should also mention the music. I was going to say it's of note, but it's really not. It's just pretty repetitive and annoying.
I didn't think it was that bad.
Really?
Well, not totally. I mean, yes, it got on my nerves eventually, but the overall compositions are decent enough. Not great, but not terrible.
Regardless, I'd still recommend playing it on mute.
Also of note here is that there is voice acting. Light voice acting. As in, there's like 2 voice clips per character.
Better than nothing, I guess.
Let's get to what matters most though. Gameplay.
Controlling Shrek is simple. D-pad for walking, A jumps, B does a dinky little punch. Pressing B while in the air lets you do a butt smash.
You know, as dinky as that punch looks, it's surprisingly crunchy. Every time you manage to land a hit on an enemy, it feels very forceful and very satisfying.
I'm sure Shrek's forceful and satisfying in other ways, too.
Okay, ew, no need to go there.
Along with dispatching enemies, Shrek can interact with the environment around him in numerous ways. He can lift and move objects, ground pound through certain areas, and jump on these weird springy tree branches and those weird looking mushrooms.
Furthermore, hidden throughout the levels are power-ups, such as these fairies that let you float through the air.
Shrek can also collect coins, a la Mario. However, unlike in the Mario games, Shrek only needs 40 to be granted an extra life. How generous.
Gameplay also isn't limited to only Shrek.
That's right. After the first level, you get to play as Donkey. Donkey is smaller, quicker, and more agile than Shrek. He also has his own set of attacks. However, he can't lift items above his head.
From level 2 onward, you take control of both Shrek and Donkey at once, or more accurately, you get introduced to the main gimmick of Shrek 2 for the Game Boy Advance. You switch between both Shrek and Donkey throughout the levels, and you must manipulate them in order to solve puzzles and progress.
I should note that if one character dies, you have to restart the entire level from the beginning. And hit detection doesn't always play nicely, so I guess you could say if you die here, it will be Game Ogre.
That was bad. That was really bad, and you should feel bad for that.
It's a very creative use of these characters, and honestly not what I expected. Sometimes you'll have to make the characters stare at each other, sometimes you have to have one character move a platform for another, sometimes you have to flip switches and, that's really it, isn't it?
Yep.
This is going to get tedious soon.
Yep, very tedious. This is the main downfall of Shrek 2. Yes, the gameplay is sound and original. In fact, the only other game I've seen that has such single-player co-op puzzle platforming is Blizzard's The Lost Vikings on the Super Nintendo. But the level design isn't very creative. Similar puzzles are reused often, and many stages feel, well, barren.
Compounded with the boring level design is the poor enemy design. All of them have the same strategy. Walk forward into you and hope for the best. Even the most complex looking enemies seem awfully like a Goomba.
The only real problematic enemies are these ones that shoot green goop at your team that turns them into slugs. And that, of course, is instant death.
I should also mention that there are other playable characters besides Shrek and Donkey. You can unlock Puss in Boots, Gingy, and Shrek in his human form.
The best one definitely has to be Gingy. You gotta appreciate that ability to use candy canes as throwing stars. He's literally a ninja. Come on, that's awesome.
The game does have gameplay variety. It just doesn't have level variety. This game honestly could have been a licensed hidden gem on GBA, in the same vein as games such as Godzilla Domination or Astro Boy the Mega Factor. As it stands though, it's just a mediocre puzzle platformer.
So there you have it, folks. Shrek 2. Not necessarily a bad game, but just a mediocre one. And that's it for today's episode.
Whoa! We aren't done here yet.
But we just looked at Shrek 2, didn't we?
But what if I told you Shrek 2 has a sequel?
Shrek the Third?
No, of course not. I'm talking about Shrek 2, Beg for Mercy.
This game's gonna make me beg for mercy, isn't it?
Shrek 2 Beg for Mercy was released a mere 6 months after the first Shrek 2 game in October of 2004.
I think that's pretty obvious just from looking at it. The graphics and the music are almost identical, although the new HUD and menus do look pretty nice.
As for story, this game, if the box art didn't clue you into it, centers around Puss in Boots. It pretty much gives his side of the events in Shrek 2.
Of note here is that instead of just using screen grabs from the movie for the cutscenes, it uses these medieval-like drawings.
As for the gameplay, it's obvious that Shrek 2 Beg for Mercy is running on the same engine as the first game. It feels a lot smoother than the first game though. This can be helped by this game's much faster start.
Instead of playing as Shrek, you start off by controlling Puss in Boots, and hot damn is he fast and satisfying to control.
Puss's stages feel less puzzly and more platformy. He's fast. He has a sword. Watch him swing on those chains, climb those walls, and oh my goodness, that double jump.
It's a shame then that after the first world, this game begins to reveal some of its problems. Upon reaching World 2, you once again take control of Shrek. He controls exactly the same as he did in the first game. He's not faster, he doesn't have any new abilities, he's literally just Shrek. Later on, you get to play as Donkey as well, and he's also exactly the same.
Thankfully, they never bring back the 2 or 3 characters at once puzzle gameplay from the first game, and you mostly just play as Puss in Boots. Shrek and Donkey stages do lag though. I guess you could say, with Shrek and Donkey, all that glitters isn't gold, and it certainly doesn't break the mold.
If you keep this up, you know I'm gonna come over there and punch you, right?
Despite being a 2D game where cameras really shouldn't be a problem, this game has a problem with the camera. It seems to be centered a little before and up from where Puss is standing, meaning the parts where you may have to take a leap of faith.
And that's a shame too. You would think that with the added time they would have ironed out the major kinks such as that. And sure, they got rid of many of the puzzle-based issues that the first game had just by removing puzzles entirely, but overall it still feels like the game designers truly didn't have this whole level creation thing down.
Despite these problems, Beg for Mercy is certainly more fun than the first Shrek 2 game. I'd go as far to say this could actually be a pretty fun playthrough. And so overall, what could be said of the Shrek 2 duology for the GBA?
Shrek 2 Beg for Mercy is certainly the better of these two games. It's still got some camera issues that are more prevalent here than in the first version of Shrek 2, but it's a lot faster paced and it seems a lot better designed than the first game. Honestly though, if you're gonna play either of these games, you'd probably be better off playing The Lost Vikings on the Super Nintendo. I've never played it, but from what I can tell, it seems like it's kind of a hidden gem for the Super Nintendo, honestly.
And while I personally never played The Lost Vikings, I share the same sentiments. Shrek 2 for the Game Boy Advance is a boring, mediocre puzzle platformer that gets old quick despite starting off very strongly. While I personally couldn't recommend in good faith Shrek 2 for the Game Boy Advance, Shrek 2 Beg for Mercy could be a pretty fun time waster.
And with that, thank you very much for watching, and special thanks to James for letting me in on this video. If you like his sort of content, you might like the type of review that I put out. I put out many funny and informative reviews of all sorts of games across many different genres, but unlike many game reviews, I don't put a final score at the end of the video. Instead, I review several separate categories on my unique Bolt rating system so that every single game, even something like Shrek Shovelware, gets a fair chance.
So I'd like to say thank you to the Golden Bolt for coming along for this review, and remember that if you enjoyed this video, to like and comment down below about what you think about Shrek 2 for the Game Boy Advance. And if you enjoyed this and want to see more of either him or I, remember to subscribe to me at Stuff We Play on YouTube, and to subscribe to him at The Golden Bolt on YouTube.
Now, can we finally play some Smash Bros, please?
Actually, why don't we play some Shrek Super Slam? Along with dispatching enemies, Shrek can interact with the environment around him in numerous ways, such as lifting and moving objects, ground pounding through certain areas, and jumping on these weird springy tree branches.